conclusion is by algorithmic calculations, which they have put into, and according to the different factors, they have come up to a conclusion of 1.5 to 20 billion species of plants and animals. Now, 1.8 is, we are on the almost a little above the limit. Okay, only no, it is million, and that is 1.5 billion. So we are not even able to discover uh, one tenth of it here. Most of the world's biodiversity-rich stations lie in the southern hemisphere and are developing nations. I had asked you this question yesterday and day before yesterday. Nobody could answer that. Any ideas now? Why? Why in the southern hemisphere and not in the northern hemisphere? Most of the population is in the northern hemisphere. Most of the exploitation of the resources and the pollution of the environment, soil, water has taken place in the northern hemisphere. So this is a living proof that humans are a very big contributory factor in destroying the biodiversity present on the global level. The population in the southern hemisphere is almost one half of what is there in the northern hemisphere. And that's why when you go to the southern hemisphere, you will find the air is much crispier. The scenic beauty is much more, because you can see that's because not much of concrete jungle is there. Except the big cities, you will find that it is a dream place in the southern hemisphere. Our tourism has not reached to that extent. We go to again major cities in Australia, Sydney, Newcastle, Brisbane, and all those places, which are like any other town or cities in the northern hemisphere. You must try to go in the interiors. I have been lucky from that point of view. I have been to ports in southern hemisphere, which are rarest of rare ports, and you will see the difference when you see it yourself. On the other hand, most of the nations capable of exploiting biodiversity lie in northern. That means the developed nations. They are capable because they have funds, they have manpower, they have resources to exploit the biodiversity. They have low level of biodiversity and developed nation. It is the other way around. Because they are capable, or you can argue that because they have exploited, they are capable. It could be both ways debated. But here we are not here to debate. These are the facts which have been observed and found out. Thus, the developed world supports the concept of biodiversity in global resource. The developed world is supporting because it is like, committing sin and then going and donating in the temple or in the mosque or any other religious place, so that it gives you a peace of mind. Actually, if you don't exploit, then you will not have to support the concept. You will not have to support the concept of biodiversity at that level. So the culprits are the one who are talking the most. That is a harsh language to use. But yes, northern hemisphere is much more developed than the southern hemisphere. And the southern hemisphere, you will find that because they have not exploited the biodiversity to that extent, they are still, the habitat are in sync with the nature. Terrestrial biodiversity of the earth is called as biomes. Now, the biomes are the largest ecological unit present in different geographic areas. Okay, so the largest in a geographic area will be called as a biome, and they are referred to as different geographic areas and are named after the dominant vegetations present in them. For example, are the tropical rainforest. Tropical is a temperate, it's a zone where tropical temperate frigids are there. It is a rainforest which has the largest vegetation, and the other ones which are of different types. Okay, they are not forest, but they are grass prairies. So because of the grass prairies are the dominant vegetation over there, it has been named after them. Savannas, desert, tundra. Tropical rainforest, largest storehouse of biodiversity. about 50 to 80% of global biodiversity lies in these rainforests. So it is imperative, without doubt, that tropical rainforest should be conserved at any cost. More than one-fourth of the world's prescription drugs are extracted from the tropical rainforest. So all the medicines on which people are living and prolonging their life is the source is from the tropical rainforest. 70% of cancer fighting plants are found in tropical rainforest. If you can survive cancer, then obviously your lifespan increases and the population is not decreasing. One of the creeping vines in rainforest of Cameroon is used for curing AIDS virus. So these cancer, AIDS, all these are life-threatening diseases for which the cure, the raw material for the medicines is found in the tropical rainforest. Now coming to the second part, that is in national biodiversity. So now, since we are Indians, we are going to talk about our country. And there are reasons to be proud about it. Even I didn't know about these things till I studied for teaching you. India is ranking 10th among the plant-rich countries of the world, which is something to be proud about. But what I feel is that it's not the human, what you call, it is not the efforts from the human which has made it 10th among. It is the nature which has given us very rich soil, fertile soil, and different varieties of plants, and rich in medicinal values, rich as far as the food is concerned. So, as I was always telling you, that there is no country like India as far as resources are concerned. There are very few things which we don't have in India. Apart from countries which, like Japan, they have very few things which they have with them. But see, they are the most disciplined people on the planet Earth. 11th in terms of endemic species of higher vertebrates. Now, endemic species ka matlab kya hai? Endemic means they are present only in that part of the world. You will not find them in any other part of the world. Okay, so these are unique. They are not something which are to be seen every day wherever you go. They are only in India, 11th in terms of endemic species, and India ranks 6th among the centers of diversity and origin of agricultural crops. One more reason to be proud is that India as a country is amongst one of the mega biodiversity countries in the world. Out of the 25 mega biodiversity hotspots, India holds 2 of them. Out of 25, we have 2 of them. There are countries which have more than us, but those are like India, Brazil and Malaysia. But their species found there are very different from us. So it is not that chalo Brazil mein hai, so we can exploit it here. Jab zarurat padegi, we take it from Brazil and Malaysia. No, they are different from. They are not found. They are endemic. They are not found anywhere else. This makes it imperative to preserve our own biodiversity, as it is a major economic source. Anything which is found in endemic as an endemic species of plants or animals, especially plants, and if it is of economical value and only available here, then it is going to be of value, monetary value as well. Now, local biodiversity. Okay. So for example, cashew nuts. Cashew nuts, a certain type of cashew nuts are only available in India, in Goa. Okay. There are cashew nuts available in Maharashtra also, in Karnataka also, in Tamil Nadu also, but that certain type are available only in Goa. Now, since Goa became a tourist place, more and more land acquisition by resorts, hotels, sab kuch, has taken place. So very little land is left for cultivation of cashew nuts compared to what it was earlier. And the influx of tourists is so much that the demand of that type of cashew for all the tourists coming there is not there. we don't have the supply. But still, if you meet somebody and tell them, कहाँ गए थे? Goa गए. क्या लाया? Cashew लाया. But that cashew is now to meet the demand of the tourist is imported from Africa, where it is cheap, but of not that quality. And it is sold to people, telling them that it is a local Goan cashew. Anybody from Goa here? Was is in Division 1. Nobody from Goa. Okay. So this is one example I'm giving you, that those species are found only in India, they're nowhere else, and they are different. Now, a lot of people don't know about this also. They can't even figure out difference between different types of cashew. So it is being sold to them, telling that it is a local growth. So in local biodiversity, there are 4 distinct richness. One is point richness. The definition of point richness is that the number of species that can be found at a single point in a given space. Then there is alpha richness. Number of species found in small homogeneous area. Alpha richness is strongly correlated with physical environment variables. Example, 100 species of tunicates in Arctic water, 400 species in temperate waters. Obviously, those species are more in number in 400 in temperate waters because the conditions are not so harsh. But in Arctic waters, the conditions are harsh, sub-zero temperatures. So less number of species which can only adapt to that kind of temperature can survive over there. If you go to tropical, you may find even more. So beta richness is rate of change in species composition across different habitats. So alpha richness or beta richness may differences. That is homogeneous areas. This is different habitats, heterogeneous areas. Okay. So cumulative number of species increase as more heterogeneous habitats are taken into consideration. And last is the gamma richness. That is the rate of change across large landscape. So in a large landscape, there may be different heterogeneous habitats. And in those different heterogeneous habitats, you may have small homogeneous habitats. In that small homogeneous habitat, you may have single point richness also. Okay. So all 4 can be present at one place, but generally are found in different places. India is a mega diversity nation. India contains about 8% of the world diversity, which is only 2% on the planet Earth. Out of the whole planet Earth surface area, only 2% is biodiversity. In that 2%, India is contributing 8%. India records 47,000 species of plants and 81,000 species of animals, which is about 7% and 6.5% of global flora and fauna population. India is home to 5 World Heritage Sites. 33% of the life form are found in India and is one among the 12 mega diversity countries. 33 botanical gardens, 89 national parks, 275 zoos, 504 sanctuaries, and 12 biosphere reserves in India. Western Ghats are site of maximum endemism, species which are restricted only to a particular area. 62% amphibians and 50% lizards. These are not found anywhere else but in India. Also in Western Ghats. Yes, Udayman, you have something to say? Any doubts, questions? Udayman, can you read me?
No, sir.
Okay. Okay. 5,000 species of flowering plants they are originated in India. They are original of India. They are not migratory. They have not been brought from somewhere and planted here. They are original Indian ones. center of origin of 166 species of crop plants and 320 species of wild relative of cultivated crops. Along 7,500 kilometer long coastline of our country, which is large as compared to one single nation, there are many countries which have got half the length of the coastline, but they have exploited in such a way. There are so many modern ports. A country like Belgium, one major port, Antwerp, holds about 2,000 plus berth jetties over there. Rotterdam, 3,000 plus jetties. And we, having 7,500 kilometers of coastline, do not have many major ports of the world. And our exploitation is very poor as compared to shipping is concerned. But there is a need for improving that, and we are looking at the inland waterways. You know, Netherlands has got best inland waterways infrastructure, whereas India, being such a large country, we are not able to exploit that. Otherwise, the cost of commodities will come down so much that we'll be benefited out of it. There are projects which are in pipeline. They have been worked upon by the government. 340 species of corals of world are found here. Andamans and Nicobars are the place like Lakshadweep Islands, Gulf areas of Gujarat and Tamil Nadu. Rich in molluscs, crustaceans, polychaetes, and corals. Several species of mangrove plants and sea grasses are found in our country. About 20-30 years back, I came to know about a place called Nhava Sheva in Navi Mumbai. Since I was staying in Vashi, since I was 4 years old, I could hear this word many times. Then slowly I started coming to know Nhava Sheva has become a shipping hub. There is a Jawaharlal Nehru Port Trust, JNPT, which is of international standard. And then finally I went into shipping. I never came to Nhava Sheva. In my shipping career during the cadetship, I used to come to the Mumbai harbor and not the Nhava Sheva harbor, because that was purely container terminal at that time, and I was not on container ships that time. Later on, when I quit sailing, I went once to Nhava Sheva because there was a job opening for a superintendent, and that's the time I saw. And then when I joined T.S. Rahman, I saw T.S. Rahman is in Sheva. So Nhava Sheva are were two islands, and not anymore. They are joined now, almost joined. And since I was in T.S. Rahman, I could see there were so many mangroves. There was no road to go to T.S. Rahman. The T.S. Rahman is a training institute in Mumbai. So there was no road. We had to take a ferry boat from the Bauchadakka, that is from South Mumbai, and come by boat to this institute to do any post-C courses. Then they started pre-C courses. So all these cadets had to go by boat for their shore leave, or what you call liberty. And later on, I decided to join T.S. Rahman as a teaching faculty. And when I was called for the interview, I was told, you can come. How are you coming? So I said, I'll have to go to and take a boat from. They said, no, there's a road from Navi Mumbai. You can come from there. So I was guided how to come by car, and there's a road now. So where these mangroves go, they're still there, but in between those mangroves, they are road. But if you go today, you'll see that slowly these mangroves have vanished from there, and a lot of residential buildings, railway station, and all those things have come. So urbanization is the biggest cause of interfering with the nature. Indian forest covers about 64.1 million hectares, having a rich biodiversity of plants, in Trans-Himalayan, Northwest, West, Central, and Eastern Himalayan forest. Western Ghats, coast, deserts, Gangetic plains, and Andaman and Nicobar Lakshadweep Islands are the places where you will find these hotspots of diversity. Now, areas which exhibit high species richness as well as high species endemism. That means there are high number of species, more number of species in a area, and these are endemic. That means they are only restricted to a particular region, are termed as hotspots of biodiversity. So hotspots cover less than 2% of the world's land area and are found to have about 50% of the terrestrial biodiversity. An area is designated as a hotspot when it contains at least 0.5% of plant species which are endemic. So the reason why India is one of the, we have 2 hotspots out of the 25 of the whole world is because there are endemic species which are only found there and nowhere else. About 40% of the terrestrial plants and 20% of the vertebrate species are endemic and found in these hotspots. After the tropical rainforest, the second highest number of endemic plant species are found in the Mediterranean. Are you aware of where the Mediterranean is? North of Africa and south of Europe. Have you seen the world map yet?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So you will find that the sea route to the Mediterranean Sea is, if we come from India, we have to go through the Red Sea, cross the Suez Canal, and then once you cross on the other side, you are in the Mediterranean Sea. To get out from the Mediterranean Sea, you can go all the way up to Gibraltar. There is a Strait of Gibraltar which opens into the Atlantic Ocean. Okay. After the tropical rainforest, the second highest number of endemic plant species are found in Mediterranean. Broadly, these hotspots are in Western Amazon, Madagascar, North and East Borneo, East, Northeast Australia, West Africa, and Brazilian Atlantic forest. These areas have high diversity, endemism, and also threatened by human activities. Indian hotspots are not only rich in floral wealth, endemic species of plants, but also reptiles, amphibians, and some mammals. Northeast India cradles of flowering plants. Out of the world's recorded flora, 30% are endemic in India, of which 35,000 are in Himalayas. So 30% of the endemic floral plants are found in India, which are not found anywhere else, and which are 35,000, out of which 35,000 species are found only in Himalaya. Western Ghats, 17,000 square kilometer strip of forest in Maharashtra, Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, and Kerala has 40% of total endemic plant species. 62% amphibians and 50% lizards are endemic to Western Ghats. Major centers are Agastyamalai Hills and Silent Valley. The new Amambalam Reserve Basin. Only 6.8% of original forest are existing today. Common plants include rhododendron and hypericum, while common fauna includes laughing thrush, lizard hawk, fairy bluebird. Now, what are the threats to these biodiversities? Yeah, this is more interesting, and this is what should be paid more attention to. Extinction or elimination of species is a natural process of evolution, which will happen. Certain type of species will get extinct, and certain new types of species will be discovered or born. This is a natural evolution which is taking place. But we humans, with our activity, we are aiding, that means the rate of natural process of elimination or extinction is made faster by us. Okay. The process of extinction has become faster due to human civilization. The figure of extinction is a rate of 10,000 species per year, which roughly amounts to 27 species per day. This is an alarming rate. 27 species vanish from the planet Earth every day. Some of them have never been discovered and even have become extinct. That is what the speculations are. 1/3 to 2/3 of our current biodiversity will be lost by the year 2050. Causes are very common causes: loss of habitat or habitat degradation. So, what is causing this loss of habitat or degradation? Our activities. Okay, there are natural ways of causing this, but those are very few. We are the ones who are having more number of ways to cause the loss of habitat. Converted into grassland, converted into farmland, converted into residential area, converted into industrial area. Poaching, though there have been strict laws about poaching now in India, with a lot of authorities and security being provided for this, and the punishment is strict. Corruption is the one which is allowing this to still happen. Invasion of non-native species. This is dangerous. When non-native species come and invade the native ones, they destroy the habitat of the native species, which cannot survive and become endangered or even extinct. Pollution. We are the masters in polluting. The developed countries have always been blaming the developing countries to be responsible for the pollution. But India, as of such, if you see the number of population, okay, I can say, for example, say America. America is responsible, these are only hypothetical examples. It is responsible for, say, 20% of the world's pollution. India is responsible for 50% of the world's pollution. But if you compare the population of America and the population of India, and then redo the math, then you will know that India is polluting less. And the reason for that is that we are developing, we are not developed. Okay. When we go in a car, we carry 4 people along with us. In America, each one is having a huge car, which is using petrol, gasoline, and diesel. So these vehicles, where it is carrying only one person and polluting the environment, pollution is not going to be stopped completely. Okay, it is going to be there because we have changed our lifestyle. We are no longer only farming or only catching fish and eating. We are doing business, and this is how to be in sync with the whole world. So pollution to hona hai. But we are polluting more is not the right thing, because the number of people we have compared to that and the number of people these developed countries have, we are polluting less. Okay. We are not doing enough management of pollution, that is true. At that rate, we may exceed the developed countries also. The developed countries have money, so they are manufacturing, they are importing all these materials whose manufacturer causes pollution from the third world countries. They don't pollute their own environment. Instead, they buy from them. So they can get polluted. Now, for example, I think I told you earlier, there was a hurricane storm called Katrina, which destroyed most of the homes in Mississippi River, in the area, Mississippi area. And now, after the storm, the survivors were given money by the government to rebuild their house. But where will they get the wood from? If they start buying the wood from America, the cost of wood will go up and rampant exploitation will start. So the laws are not permitting to do that. So they imported this from Germany and many other countries. But I know Germany for sure because we were the ones who were carrying this wood from Germany to America on our ships. So they are preserving their own because they can afford to. They have money, they are developed countries, they are rich, and taking from the others. Invasion, pollution, over exploitation of resources. This is going to be common problem in developing countries with high population. Global environmental change for here again we are developing countries are considered to be responsible, more responsible in contributing the environment change. But frankly speaking, we still can live without a lot of things in India. Like if there's a power cut at your place for 4 days, I living in a major city may face a lot of problems. Some people may crib about it and all that, but we will survive. If there's a power failure in a major city in US, half the people have to be admitted in the hospital because of the trauma. That is the kind of way of life they have lived now. Man wildlife conflicts. Wildlife causing damage and danger to humans and properties, crops, and houses. Remember one thing, there is a saying that when you expand your residential area, you are invading the homes of these wildlife animals and plants. They are not, they are the natives. You are invading. Humans are invading and destroying their habitat. Okay. Naturally, they are going to be there, they are wild, they are dangerous. You get scared of them and you start killing them. In Samalpur, Orissa, 195 humans were killed in the last 5 years by elephants alone. In response to that, see the humans, they killed 98 elephants and injured 30. Okay, they might even think of coming to 195 figure to equate with them. In Nepal, 17 people were killed in the Royal Chitwan National Park by a man-eating tiger. Electrical fencing, explosives were some of the methods adopted by villages to kill wild animals. Now, what are the causes of this wildlife conflict with the man? Human encroachment into forest areas, major cause. दूसरों के घर में जाके you cannot tell them to behave the way you want them to behave. You have to behave the way they want you to because you are the guest. What we do, we go there, we threaten them, we ask them to behave the way we want. They don't listen, we kill them. Animals suffering from illness, weak and injured, take humans. Okay. Lack of alternate cultivation practices, paddy sugarcane by forest department for animals. Like elephants, when bamboo leaves are not available. The bamboo cultivation is very difficult and it is slow and requires a lot of environmental factors to be present in it. So they obviously they are lacking, and there is the staple food for the elephants. Now elephants have also adapted themselves. They also love to eat sugarcane. So if this is not there, then alternate cultivation of sugarcane can be done or paddy can be done. Now, Maharashtra, there is a lot of sugarcane cultivation, but not for elephants. For your information, it is again used for to convert into rupees or dollars and making sugar, jaggery, and all sorts of things. Electric fencing causes injury to animal, which in return turn them violent. So then they start an attack. So this is the animal behavior. When their loved ones die in the electrical fencing, obviously they want revenge. So they come and they become violent, they become angry. Poor cash compensation by the government. If the crop of a farmer is destroyed by the wild boar or rats or animals which are coming from the jungle, then farmers do not get compensated, they go in loss. in result, they become angry and they want to take revenge from the animals, so they start killing the wild animal. So the behavior of the animals and the humans seem to be at par with each other. Now, endangered species of India. What are the extinct species? When it is not seen in the world or wildlife for 50 years at a stretch, it is labeled as extinct. Example, dodo, passenger pigeons. They're no more there on the planet Earth. They have not been seen for last 50 years. They've vanished. Endangered species are when its number has been reduced to a critical level. If we don't do something about it, they will become extinct. Or whose habitats are drastically reduced, and if such a species is not protected and conserved, it's in immediate danger of extinction. Vulnerable species is if a population of species is facing continuous decline, okay, consistently it is declining year after year due to overexploitation or habitual destruction, then those are vulnerable to become endangered and then finally extinct. Rare species, species which are not endangered or vulnerable at present, but are at risk. So International Union for Conservation of Nature and Natural Resources, IUCN, publishes Red Data Book, list of endangered species of plants and animals. The endangered species in the country are categorized as vulnerable, rare, intermediate, and threatened. Nearly 450 plant species have been identified as categories of endangered, threatened, or rare species. Endemic species of India, which are found in a particular area only, they are known as endemic. Out of 47,000 species of plants in our country, 7,000 are endemic, only found in that particular area. Indian subcontinent has about 62% endemic flora, restricted namely to Himalayas, Khansi Hills, and Western Ghats. These three places should have no other compromises and should be looked after in the strictest way to conserve it. Endemic flora, Saprea himalayana, pitcher plants and orchids. These are endemic. Out of 81,000 animal species, large number of species are described to be endemic. Western Ghats, 62% amphibians, 50% lizards are endemic. Endemic species reticulated python, Indian salamander, and viviparous toads. You will not find them in any other part of the world. Now talking about conservation. Conservation of biodiversity. In situ conservation, that is situ means within the habitat, conservation of species is best done by protecting its habitat. Or rather, I would say instead of protecting, stop destroying the habitat. If you don't destroy, the nature will take care and protect it. We are talking about protecting it. So one part of our country we are destroying and the other part we are trying to protect. Doesn't make much of sense. Okay. Habitat along with all the other species that live within it in nature. In situ conservation is achieved by protection of wild flora and fauna in nature itself. Example, you make national parks, wildlife sanctuaries, forest reserves, and biosphere reserves for protection or conservation of that habitat. Ex situ, that was in situ, this is ex situ conservation, outside habitat. Situated in a situation in which an endangered species is so close to extinction that unless an alternate method are instituted, the species may be rapidly driven to extinction. Ex situ conservation is done by conserving the species outside its natural habitat in a carefully controlled situation. So we make a habitat which is close to their natural habitat to conserve them, to allow them to live, allow them to breathe, allow them to breed, and increase in number. India has been able to successfully do it in case of tigers. Example are gene banks, seed banks, zoological park, botanical gardens, cultural collections. Talking about plants. In situ conservation, India has 7 major biosphere reserves, 89 national parks, 500 wildlife sanctuaries, 120 botanical gardens covering 4% of our geographic area. Biosphere reserves conserve some representatives ecosystem as a whole for long-term in situ conservation. So biosphere reserves are one of the methods which represent ecosystem as a whole for long-term conservation. In India, we have Nanda Devi in UP, Kokrek in Meghalaya, Nokrek, sorry, Manas in Assam, Sundarban in West Bengal, Gulf of Mannar in Tamil Nadu, Nilgiri in Karnataka, Kerala, Tamil Nadu, Great Nicobar, Similipal, Orissa, and biosphere reserves. National parks, 89 national parks in India. National parks are areas dedicated for the conservation of wildlife along with its environment. It's meant for enjoyment through tourism, not actually. The enjoyment through tourism was allowed in the national park because there is a lot of funds required to maintain these national parks in a artificial way, which is not natural. So where will these funds come from? So they allow tourists to come with a ticket, and that gives them revenue to take care of the expenses, which are the funds are always less and expenses are always more. Grazing of domestic animals, all private rights, forestry activities are prohibited within the national park. So if you go to a national park, you see a mango tree. If you pluck a mango from that, it is already mentioned there. And if you don't obey that, then you will be fined heavily for that. Conservation of biodiversity. Wildlife sanctuaries. There are 500 wildlife sanctuaries in India which are protected, where killing, hunting, shooting, or capturing of wildlife are prohibited except under the control of highest authorities. Project Tiger, Gir Lion Project, Crocodile Breeding and Conservation Program, Project Elephant, Snow Leopard Project in the Great Himalayan National Park. These are some of the wildlife sanctuaries which are based on these projects. Conservation of biodiversity. Egg-shoot conservation, that is outside the habitat. Conservation of crop varieties, wild relatives of crops and all local varieties. Conserve total genetic variability of crop species for future crop improvement. Normally, we as humans don't think about the future. We try to exploit whatever is present, and very little number of people think about what will happen, what will the next generation get. Everybody is interested in अपना time निकलने दो, next generation कुछ और ढूंढ लेगा. Debatable again. But conservation in the form of gene bank and seed bank. That means the seeds of certain type of plants which are rich and of economical value are conserved. Okay, their genes are conserved. National Bureau of Plant Genetic Resources (NBPGR), located in New Delhi, agricultural, horticultural crop, their wild relatives are preserved by cryopreservation of seeds. Now, cryopreservation of seeds and pollens is done by using liquid nitrogen and keeping them at a temperature of minus 196 degrees Celsius. Now, having a plant which can do this is going to require funds, and that's money expense oriented conservation. Egg-shoot conservation, varieties of rice, pearl, millets, brassica, turnip, radish, tomato, onions or carrot, chili, tobacco, poppy, etc. preserved in liquid nitrogen for several years without losing their seed viability. National Bureau of Animal Genetic Resources, NBAGR, located at Karnal, Haryana, has been set up for the genetic preservation of domesticated bovine animals. Each तरह पे they are trying to preserve the seeds. On the other hand, if you see the bananas which you get today in the, I don't know about the rural areas, but in the cities are all hybrids. Okay, banana is not a seasonal plant, but the amount of banana which we used to get was not enough for the demand. So they started making hybrid which grows faster, which ripens faster, and is a pulpy, but not necessarily nutritious as the original one. The corn, मक्का खाते हो? Corn, महाराष्ट्र में इसको भुट्टा बोलते हैं, जो सेक के खाते हैं,
Yes, sir.
boil करके खाते हैं. Now, in my childhood, we used to get these white colored corn. Today, you get yellow, which is sweet. It is called sweet corn. Separately खरीदना पड़ता था. आजकल sweet corn ही मिलता है. वो original variety, Indian variety is vanished. Very rarely you will still find. And the reason for that was that crop used to get destroyed because it was not durable. And the other thing was the demand. And once this demand increases, then the suppliers are the Americans. California apple, khaya kabhi? Always red, okay? Always sweet, consistent in pulp, okay? So kabhi aapko aisa lagega nahi ki aapka paisa vasool ho gaya if you buy that. You will feel good. मैंने 100 रुपये खर्चा किया. I got good quality. It is sweet also. I'm happy. But those are not indigenous. The indigenous ones are the ones which are not consistent in pulp. They're not always sweet. Sometimes you find them they have tasteless, and they're not always red. So once you get used to this California one, then the supply is going to come, or the growth will be here, and you will have no choice but to buy those. Same with almonds. Indian almonds have vanished. Californian almonds are available for less than half the price. So obviously, people go for it. More people can buy it. Those who cannot afford the Indian almonds can buy this, and Indian native ones are 3 times the cost of these. So more sale is for the Californian almonds. So this is what the preservation of the seeds is done so that the quality is not lost and the genes are not altered. National Facility for Plant Tissues Culture Repository, that is NFPTCR, Development of Facilities of Conservation of Varieties of Crop Plants Trees by Tissue Culture. So that's about our Indian diversity. And here we finish with the biodiversity.